Number that I've heard a lot, and it's good for mindset. The applicability of whether or not this number is 100% accurate or not is sort of up for debate. Through my own research, I've learned that it's not as simple and it's not as exact and precise as this, but for all intents and purposes, let's consider that this is like a 100% factual number, and what's more important is how do we utilize it, right? 3,500 is a number that a lot of people think is the amount of calories that it takes to burn a pound of fat. It could be more, it could be less, it depends on your diet, depends on a lot of things, but let's take this at face value. It's supposed to be social distancing, guys. It's supposed to be social distancing. 3,500 calories to, burn 1 pound of fat. Now, again, a lot of people think, I'm going to do this through exercise. It's very hard to burn off 3,500 calories. When I did the Chicago Marathon, I think I burned, according to my watch, which everything's an estimation, right? I burned like 4,000 calories from doing 26 miles, in like 4+ hours. And that could be completely inaccurate. Like, how do they get that number? Like everything else, it's an estimation. But 3,500, you're not going to burn that off. What's mostly going to happen if you're trying to lose weight, you're going to take this out through the effect of eating less food, right? And I'll explain how to do that and all, blah blah blah. But 3,500. We have 7 days in a week, right? Because again, we're doing this on a long scale timetable, right? Divided by 7 days a week, 500 calories that you want to take out of your diet every single day, and at that rate, you can lose about a pound a week. Times however many weeks you want to lose weight for. So let's say you got to lose 50 pounds. It's gonna take you 50 friggin' weeks, right? So 50 weeks to lose 50 pounds. 50 lb equal 50 week. So that being said, some people, again, you'll get a lot of people that's, oh, I did keto and I lost 20 pounds in the first week. Did you lose 20 pounds of body fat, or did you lose 20 pounds of water weight and glycogen and maybe some body fat? Did you lose muscle mass also? Like, again, holistic, everything, right? Consider the fact that people that, not everybody, but some people who are overweight, consider the fact that it probably took them a long time to get there. I have friends who are like overweight, and you look at pictures of them in high school or middle school, and it's like not all of them were always like that. Some of them were, but if it took you 15 years to get 60 pounds overweight, don't get upset when it takes you longer than 6 months to lose 60 pounds of weight that it took you 15 years to put on. You got to take all these things into consideration, like your metabolism and your habits. You got to change habits over a long period of time. Like, your body's used to one way and you're trying to get it out of that mode. So again, this sort of, it's not a perfect equation, but it works, right? Here's another number, and specifically because I do strength training work with people, and this is going to be true for anybody, like most people in general, but also, specifically people who do any level of activity. You always want to keep your protein level up because that's what's building the foundation of your muscular structure and whatnot. Number of different protein like calculators or calculations, number of different protein formulas you can find online. I'm talking really general population here when I'm doing this type of stuff because I don't. So far, I'm not. I'm not a strength and conditioning, a certified strength and conditioning specialist, right? I'm a guy who works at a fucking big box gym that, someone who is 80 pounds overweight comes in and says, I just want to lose weight. I want to be able to play with my kids. I want to be able to walk upstairs without getting winded. And I want, my doctor said that I'm pre-diabetic, so I want to change my lifestyle around and whatever. I'm dealing with those types of people. You don't want to do some fucking fancy mathematical blah 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 thing of, we're going to switch to kilograms because in America we use the imperial system and not the metric system. Like, we're going to do this and then we're going to do times 2.2 of, like, here, protein. If you're just a normal person, you've never seen these numbers before. Point 0.8 to 1.0 grams per pound of body weight. Just use that number. There's other equations that take into account lean body mass or anything like that. At the end of the day, you can really just go into MyFitnessPal and type in, or you can go on any online calculator and you can type in, this is my body weight, this is my body fat percentage, I'm trying to gain 3 pounds of lean body mass. How much protein should I be eating? And it might give you a couple different numbers. They're all based on a number of different equations that for the general person is going to be just completely over their heads. Because again, I front loaded this video with all of this information about this is all lifestyle and it's all habit, and you want to form good habits over time. This is one good habit, is you want to increase your protein consumption if you're doing like weightlifting, or if you're doing any level of physical activity, if you're running, if you're playing tennis, you want like a good amount of protein in your diet. But you don't want to sit there and focus on like, oh, well, this number, or, take this, like, it's, for most people in my experience, that's been too much, and people, what ends up happening is people throw the baby out with the bathwater as a result, and you just want to make it simple. So for most people, I'm going to say 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight, somewhere in there. Again, if I go back to a person who's 5 foot tall and they weigh 100 pounds, it's going to be about like 80 grams to 1 gram per pound of body fat, per day. Maybe a little bit more if they're trying to gain weight, especially in that scenario. But, I don't know if there's anything else to add to that. Like, again, the thing that I'm trying to drive home, especially with the TDEE, is if your total daily energy expenditure is 2,000 and you're trying to gain weight, eat more than that. Some people will spit out a number that's like, eat 250 calories more than that a day, eat 500 calories more than that a day. I've done extreme fat gain diets where I've eaten a lot more than that. And same thing with the reverse of that, which is you get that 2,000. If you're trying to lose weight, that could be the 500 that, totals that 3,500 per week. It could be 500, it could be 250 if you're trying to cut down a little bit slower. It could be a little bit bigger. There's certain numbers you don't want to make it too extreme, because again, at a certain point, cellular function sort of stops working. I've done like a 1,200 calorie diet in the past, and I've lost a lot of weight pretty quickly, but it's not really also sustainable, and I've done like I'm doing sort of a ketogenic diet right now, and I know that it's not going to be 100%, like what I'm doing currently is not going to be 100% sustainable over a long period of time. So it's like you always have to have like a baseline level of like, these are just the facts and figures and the numbers, and like you always want to be able to fall back on that, because life's going to throw shit at you. Life might throw a global pandemic at you one day, and you're just like, okay, well, when I sit down and I'm looking at the food that I'm eating, what is it that I'm supposed to be eating And these are just general guidelines. And one thing that I mentioned, oh, the phone's right here. One thing that I mentioned within those general guidelines is the app MyFitnessPal, and there's a number of different calorie counting apps and whatnot. And MyFitnessPal seems to just be the easiest one to use. Other people have said that there's ones that are better. I default to it just because I don't use it on a daily basis, and I'm not really too worried about like my micronutrients or stuff like that. Like, I don't think you have to worry about a lot of that unless you're trying to be like precise in terms of like bodybuilding. Again, for instance, like you want precisely this amount of food. For most people, if you're eating a balanced diet, you're going to be getting most of those things out of your diet anyway, all your micronutrients, and making sure you have a good balanced amount of your macronutrients, which again, I gave you the number for proteins. When people ask me, should I do high fat, low carb, high fat, you got three macronutrients. You can count water as the fourth, I guess sometimes people do. For the intents and purposes of food, I do not, just because we're talking about all this different stuff. Like, stay hydrated, drink water, right? You're made of water, drink water. But you got three major macronutrients. First one is protein that I've mentioned, which you should be keeping up, and then what percentage of fat versus carb. The rest of those two, if you make it a pie graph like MyFitnessPal does, for instance, if you make that a pie graph, like what percentages should I be making these two other macronutrients? And like, I think for most people it really doesn't matter. Just eat the food that you like to eat, and make small changes over long periods of time. You can definitely overcomplicate things, and there's different protocols for different, again, if you're trying to lose a lot of weight, even going back to 70s era bodybuilding and stuff like that, or even earlier than that, people would cut carbs and just do like a basic simple ketogenic diet and eat a very few amount of calories, and that would work. And then you'd have like cheat days or refeed days or stuff like that. But I mean, again, for most people, you don't have to worry about that. Just eat well and eat the things that you like to eat, and don't spend too much mental effort and energy on it. Just so MyFitnessPal is a good way of keeping track of that. Also, I mean, if it helps, like old-fashioned notebook, pen and paper, just write down the food that you eat so that you're conscious of what you're eating and stuff like that. Like, it doesn't, unless you're gonna do the calorie math yourself, it doesn't matter too much, again, it depends on your level of involvement in any of this. But I think that that's probably about it. I don't think that I'm missing anything. I went over the habits. I went over TDEE, protein, major macronutrients, MyFitnessPal, and logging it, and sort of the overall scope of everything. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. Again, this is sort of meant to be just like an overall lecture. I can't believe I talked for 45 minutes straight about this shit, but there's a lot to take into account, and I think the most basic thing you can focus on in any sense of this type of stuff is, like, don't make it too complicated, because again, I've had people that make things too complicated immediately and they fall off or whatever, and it's like you want to take all of these things that I'm saying into account, and you want to take them also, with some level of a grain of salt, because maybe someone who's advanced maybe already knows all this stuff, or maybe someone who knows like nothing about any of this stuff, has never heard it said in this sort of way. But again, you want to have some sort of baseline that you can always go back to no matter what. So if you're if you're in a global pandemic and you're just eating nothing but ice cream and pizza and beer all day, like, sure, I don't care what you do. I don't think anybody cares what you do. But if you're like, "Ah, I want to shape my diet back up, like these are the basic sort of things you got to take into account. And, you should always have that baseline that if you fall off the wagon, you can always sort of bounce back, or the wagon or the horse or whatever. I fall off the horse and the wagon. That you can always bounce back to just the basic premise of like eating food, and for a lot of people that might look a lot of different ways, and that, especially within my career field, there's a lot of people that are like chicken, brown rice, broccoli, and like, yeah, those are good foods, and it's a good way to stay consistent, is just to go, hey, these are the building blocks that we're just going to do this, and we're going to do this for 6 meals a day and whatever. But a lot of shit, meal timing and stuff like that, or the amount of meals per day, you're finding less and less that really sort of matters, in any regard. You see people who do intermittent fasting that end up, it ends up working for them. They gain a ton of weight. You see people that eat 8 meals a day, and it's very meticulously like, I'm eating this many grams of chicken breast, and like I don't go over that number. And it just depends on your level of involvement with everything. I don't know, I might do a couple videos of different types of diets. I almost wonder if that's even necessary. I guess, comment below if there's something that I missed or something you would like to see covered. These videos aren't like too in depth. Again, it's not like I'm sitting here breaking down scientific papers. It's just like, just giving you the basic facts and figures. But if you want to see me ramble for 47 minutes about, I don't know, like the Vince Gironda's steak and eggs diet, which, has sort of come in and out of my life at different points. Drop a comment below. I got a couple other videos planned for this. We'll see how long this quarantine lasts for, and what else sort of I can do within this capacity of sitting here and talking at a camera, because I have no editing software. I don't even have someone's borrowing my camera right now, so I'm using just my phone to make these. So yeah, I'm just making whatever basic information is sort of the quickest and easiest digestiblest, that's possibly, just for the consumption of most people, so yeah, that's probably about it.